for the recording. Okay, so quickly going to screen share and just go through it one more time. All right. You cannot change anything unless you're willing to understand it, and you cannot understand it unless you're willing to explore it. A good debate doesn't get ugly. We may talk of things that make people feel vulnerable. Beliefs held sacred may be challenged because of life experiences. We are not trying to make people wrong or to incite riot, but simply explore. Welcome to the Elite Thinking Club. So let's get straight into it, right? So last week we talked about loads of things. We talked about the Trump and Donald Trump and everyone just going through that building like they owned it. In essence, they kind of do. We all own it. But do you know what I mean? And then we also talked about, I asked a question to the group. I asked a great question. I think it's a great question. Would you kill 1,000 people to save 10,000 people? And that was part of it as well. And also, Liz brought up something really good, because we started talking about how you can be born in the same household as someone but take a different approach to life. And it was this very question here. It was like, well, not question, but quote. Genetics loads the gun. Environment pulls the trigger. I thought about that for a bit. And it did make a lot of sense. But then my cousin, she also said, but don't we have an element of choice? For example, if you're born in a household, this is what Liz said last week, if you're born in a household where your father's an alcoholic, and you witness him as you're growing up, you do have a choice, I suppose. You could either follow in his footsteps because it's learned behavior, or you could see his behavior and say, nah, I don't want to be like that, and not be. Very, very interesting. It was a good one, Liz, and I really am grateful for that, so thank you for that. But then, just before the session was about to end, okay, there was a guy on the session called Lucas, and he just stumped everyone and said, oh yeah, just before we leave, I was literally closing up, and he said, yeah, just before we leave, I just want to ask something to the group. And he says this, he goes, how do you know that each interaction in your life isn't a test in a simulation? And then he quoted The Truman Show. You know the film The Truman Show with Jim Carrey? And it got everyone like staying on the call for an extra 10 minutes. And I was cracking up because he didn't speak for the whole session. He just didn't say a word. And I was like, Lucas, we're going in with that next session. So all those that were there, you already had a whole week to ponder on this, so I'm sure, in your moments you've had your thought processes sparked. But for those that are just joining, there you go. That's the question we're leading in with tonight. And the way it works is just allow the mind to think about it and then just share it with the group, and it just flows from there. So I'll take a back step anytime anyone wants to talk. This isn't a put your hand up and speak. It's just an open discussion. You can go ahead and add to everyone, but obviously just have ears, 2 ears, 1 mouth. And I actually believe this. I don't want to sound crazy, but I do believe this. There was times I've had moments when I've said good morning to someone. And this isn't just the odd one. It's quite a few people, and they literally do not acknowledge me because I think they're like robots. I just think like, what? That wasn't human. Do you know what I mean? And it was really weird.
I think anything is possible in these days. Anything is possible.
It was really weird. It was like they had somewhere to be, but they were almost on like a timer. Like they looked weird because they didn't even look left, look right. They were just marching almost like robots. And it did get me thinking, it might not be a simulation. This is like me going off on a tangent. It might not be a simulation, as in like we're being plugged into the matrix, but potentially they have made artificial intelligence able to, I don't know, almost fill space.
Could this sort of like fall in line with, I've heard people talk before about systematic programming. So the way you go about your day-to-day life, you may just think that is the norm. So when you're saying good morning to someone to be polite, just to interact with them, they're already set in their way. Like, they may be going through that same path and process every day of working set hours, delivering set, parcels somewhere. So they're just like, oh yeah, right, and then see you later, crack on, because of that systematic programming. They believe that that is what their days meant to be built up for. Wake up, have breakfast, go to work, go home, do the same things pattern after pattern every day.
That's quite robotic, isn't it, in itself?
Yeah.
It's quite robotic. Just like it feels robotic, you know, even for, you know, for all of us when we get up and we have the routine of doing certain things, I think.
I know Callum's itching to say something.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think Callum needs to jump in.
He's itching to say something.
You know, like sometimes when everyone has their routine normally that they follow, and like for me, going to work, I drive there and it's like a half-hour drive, but I get there and I think I actually can't remember my whole drive. It's just so.
I do that. I do that, and I think, how did I get safely?
I can't remember how I got here. Like I've just not even been thinking because it's so systematic.
I've got to just jump in there on that. You're both female and you've both had children. I know it's like, I don't know like exactly how old your children are, but don't women suffer with like baby brain, do they call it, where sometimes you do actually forget things? Not saying that you don't know the journey, because obviously you clearly knew the journey, but you might not remember the journey, because I'm not going to lie to you. That never happens to me.
Sometimes you daydream as well. I think sometimes you just daydream and you get so used to that sort of, unless you go a different route, you know, you get so used to that route that I think you just kind of, I don't know.
Mind wanders.
Yeah. It does.
But
it
no,
does.
There is such a thing.
Brain.
There is such a thing as baby brain. Because I do remember putting my keys in the fridge. But that was when I was pregnant. That wasn't now.
Yeah, it doesn't last forever. No, you get your memory back. No. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I'm not a woman. I wouldn't know.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I've had my memory back for quite a few years, so it's all
okay,
good.
Cool. So, okay, wicked. Did I hear someone say so? Is that you, Callum?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got something to say. Let's hear this out. What do you think about all this, Callum?
So, touching on what Frankie said, yeah. When did this become normal? This pattern that we live by, waking up every day, going to work, coming home, this system that we're living in, when did that become completely normal to everyone on the planet? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, and I think the word you've said there is system. Very good.
Yeah, it's just like everyone's following this routine and none of us actually know why.
Mm-hmm.
And it's finding the root cause. When did this get put in place? When did it get written in the books for everyone to follow? When did it become a rule to everyone on the planet to follow this way of living?
Just to give everyone a quick overview, of it. I'm not gonna shun Callum out on this one, right? I'm just saying, when you explore so much, I think it's very, very difficult to find a foothold on an actual truth, because you know it's hard. And I know Callum personally, he's explored a lot, but whereas, say for example, if I was to ask someone who hadn't explored so much, maybe they'll just get straight to the point. They might actually know, well, the reason why we've developed this way is because, and I'm just putting it out there, the reason why we developed this way is because of the natural process. Like, the need for necessity breeds invention. And because of that, we have now created this life we live. I was trying to explain to someone the other day about, like, you know, economics. They were saying to me, oh, wouldn't it be great to have more money, this, that, and that, and that. And I said, yeah, we can have this conversation until the cows come home. I love this conversation, actually, because it's quite funny that it's this tangible thing. But the reality is it's given in exchange for value, service. So I was on the phone to the person. I said something about the cup of tea I was drinking. I said, like, I don't go out and get the tea bags. I don't pick the tea. I don't have the sugar growing in my back garden. I didn't even make the cup. I didn't even make the kettle. I didn't even actually build the pipes to get the water. A lot of things have been built. And you know, there's multi-billionaire people out there who are making multi-billions. Yes, because those people took the time to create the system that provides us with the life that you say, Callum, we're born into. And at what point, you're absolutely right, what point did we just, in a sense, have to accept or surrender to that? If we were born, say, 200 years ago, when the luxury of a cup of tea wasn't here, would it have been that need for necessity that would have sparked us 200 years ago to create the economic structure for everyone to have a cup of tea. Every household around me right now probably has tea bags in their house. Someone somewhere has made this multi-billion pound industry of tea. It's just a shame that we haven't. We're born so late down the line that it's almost like everything's already been done.
Yeah. So basically, we haven't been given a choice.
Yeah.
We're just having to follow the status quo.
Is this the famous Callum?
Sorry.
Jules, is this the famous Callum, the wise?
Yeah. We've had great
Brilliant.
chats. We've walked Southend Pier and just spoke about. It's same with me and you, Frank. Same with me and you, Liz. Liz, remember when we was at Ant Middleton's day camp and we couldn't actually have our chat because we were surrounded by people who just weren't capable of it, and it just wasn't the right setting. And this is why I create this club, because I knew it's very hard for people who are so good at exploring and have a broad mind. Someone could say something absolutely out there to me and it wouldn't sound out there to me. But because they're afraid of, like, they say something that's out there and the amount of society that just cannot fathom what they just said, it's frustrating, and I get it. So welcome to the Elite Thinking Club. And even I'm not saying that we're like elite as in like we're too good for the rest of society. That's not true. Because back to the conversation I just said about economics, like someone somewhere doesn't need to explore that far because they just need to operate out of understanding the basics. I need to get tea bags in all the households. That's my purpose. And I'm very grateful for them. Now I get tea. You know? It is crazy. It is crazy, some of the conversations we've had. Callum, remember that conversation about ayahuasca?
Yeah.
Anyone else know what that is? This is like well away from this. I could actually flip this now. So okay, a quick question for the group. Obviously, talking about tangible things like tea bags, let's take it a next step, okay? So like cigarettes and alcohol. They're tangible things, they can be monitored, they can be regulated. And yet we know that they are the two biggest causes of health. They're the biggest things that kill us the most. I mean, the most amount of death that's caused in the UK is due to alcohol. And you know, smoking has no benefits at all. Forget the myths about its stress relieving and all that. No, we know it's the number one worst killer next to alcohol. Yet these things are legal. But talking about ayahuasca, let's explore the psychedelic realms of drugs. I don't know if you guys have taken drugs, and I'm not here to judge. I don't judge. Everyone has their thing. I actually see alcohol as a drug. I see caffeine as a drug. So anything that's mind altering as it goes into your system is a drug. In essence, everything is a drug. But anyway, ayahuasca, me and Callum had this conversation. He talked to me about it years ago, before it was even like a buzzword. And I don't know if you guys know about it. But you go into these like Himalayan tribe places and you take this substance and what it does is it allows your inner self to escape the external self. And not only does it do that, once you escape the external self, you're no longer restricted by the human body's senses. You can actually explore beyond that. And it's mental. I've not done it yet. And I say yet because I'm only 31. I've got a whole life ahead of me. Apparently, it's powerful to the point where we hear sound with our ears and see colour with our eyes. But apparently when you can escape the human body, because obviously we only have eyes, the ability of hearing and seeing, when you escape the human or leave the human body, which we will one day, you don't see colour with your ears. You don't even see it with your eyes. It's like a merge of things. It's insane. That's what they say. That's what it is. And they say that not only do you discover who you are without the human body, you learn to discover what is without what Callum said, the system that we're born into. This is all matter, isn't it? Is it? It's just all energy. And when you can not imagine eliminating the eyes, right? If you don't have the ability to see, your whole world changes. Your whole perception in your mind of the world changes. And yeah, that's the power of ayahuasca. That's a conversation that Callum and I had like one time. I just thought I'd throw it in there. Yeah.
So
where
is
do
this
you
something?
get it from? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to ask the same. Is this a thing that you can actually trial and do and stuff? Is it?
So, this, I don't know it too well. Like, I'm not going to say I've done it because I haven't done it. And I'm not going to talk on a lot of it, but I've just researched it on YouTube and read a few blogs and actually spoke to a couple of people that have done it. And yes, you can find like shamanic healers, they're called. And these people have access to this root plant, which is just brewed a certain way. And it goes inside the body and it purges the body. So it gets rid of a lot of toxic stuff that doesn't serve the body. So you become pure. And in that process, that's when this is what they say, you interact with Mother Nature. It's going to sound crazy, but there's a diet that you have to go through before you take it as well, for it to have like a full effect. It's like a 2-week, I'd say a course, but it's just like, it's very vegan. There's no dairy, no eggs, no meat. It's very plant-based. And the reason they do that is because the ayahuasca plant itself is a strong plant, just like marijuana. And it's got all of its like benefits. For it to react well to your body, you need to be in tune with it. So you need to become part of nature. And the best way to do that is you are what you eat, right? So you go on a diet of plant-based for 2 weeks or however long, and it reacts better for you. They actually say that it becomes you. I haven't done it, but this is, honestly, I'll write it down for you and just go ahead and research it. I would put it on the whiteboard. Oh, I didn't even explain why the whiteboard's here. Whiteboard's here for if anyone drops an absolute bomb of a mind-blowing moment, we write it down. But ayahuasca, I don't think that's that for that. I'll email you what that ayahuasca and explore yourself. Good stuff. Yeah. Alright.
Are you willing to try it?
Yes, I am. I am willing to try it. Definitely. I think I'm capable. Who else in this room thinks that they would be capable?
I'd give it
definitely.
a go.
Yeah,
Not me. I can't deal with the thought of having that out of body thing. Like, it scares me. I don't know why. I just don't know.
I'll have to persuade her to drink on her own birthday. She ain't doing that.
You know, there is some people who have reported that they wish they didn't.
Yeah.
It does show people who they truly are. You know?
It'd be bad. I think, I don't know. I think in so many different ways of things. Now, it's really bad because I'm a really positive person, but that I always see the dark side of stuff as well. So things like that with like going into your mind, it just scares the life out of me. Don't know why.
That's fair.
You see, like you're saying, Jules, about how like when you drink and stuff. Is that what you're saying, that you become your true self when you have a drink?
I had this conversation with an ex.
Because I had a conversation. I think I touched on it briefly with you before in the past when we was in the army. How do we not know that we're being held back from illegal drugs? Because that, like, when we're in that state of mind and in that situation of doing what we look at as being wild and crazy things, how do we not know that that is what life's meant to be like? And what, in the situation that we're in now, this is the controlledness of government and higher powers and stuff. So how do we not know that life, it should be like that and not like this? But then if you speak to someone who's open-minded, like the people in this group, they'd be very interested in it. But if you speak to someone who wouldn't have that deep conversation with you, they'll just go, no, it's just nonsense, mate. Like, why would it be like that? They won't be interested, or they'd be scared because
it is a possibility.
Yeah.
It's beautifully explained, Frankie. That was a yes.
I think a lot of people don't understand or even want to understand, because I think we said this last week, I think, like, you get open minds and closed minds. And I think sometimes people don't want to understand or think there's an alternative because it scares them that what they've been conditioned to believe isn't really real or isn't how we should be.
I love what you just went there and took there, Frank, because I believe the same. For the longest time growing up young, I convinced myself that there was something wrong with me because I wasn't fitting in. So I had to do my best to fit in. When in actual fact, I think there was nothing wrong with me at all. In actual fact, it was the restrictions that the rest of the world were trying to condition me to be to suit the system. I was a hyperactive child. That's what they diagnosed it as. But if, you know, I've got a lot more energy than average, I think that's a positive thing, should be channeled correctly. And if a young person or a child sees the world with a perception of how, say for example, the colour of my jumper's burgundy, and they see it as burgundy, yes, but like the point I'm getting at is that I shouldn't have to have told them that. I shouldn't have to have, if they're in danger, then by all means you've got to guide them correctly. They're only young, and you know. But when it comes to growing, that's the exact word, growing. When are we restricted from growing? And when they put limitations on us, like restrictions on us, like, no, you shouldn't be taking these drugs, and you must conform to these timings, and you must abide by this system. Like Callum said, the choice is that they take away the choice. Otherwise, you can't get by. Maybe I went off on a bit of a too much tangent there. I wasn't quite grasping what it was, but I know what I was trying to say.
I can relate. It's like the saying when people say, that's not normal. I think, well, what is normal?
And I think when I was saying earlier about systematic programming, the system being the system or the now, the world that we live in now, and you know, that's programmed a certain way for us to be guided in a way that, you know, the government or, you know, the people, higher power, however, you know, you wish to look at it, wants everyone to be going. You know, they don't want people to get these ideas, have these conversations, be onto bigger and better things, because it potentially puts those at threat and at potential risk. And I feel like, again, another conversation we've had in the past, Jules, where when you feel like you're onto something quite big or a big moment, out of the blue, there'll just be a random distraction which will just sidetrack you off. Yeah. And then you go back down that path that you're, you know, potentially being programmed into following without being in control of it.
Yes, I totally agree. Frankie, you are hitting so many knowledge bombs right there. I don't think it's a coincidence sometimes. Sometimes I'll be on a roll. 3 hours in the day, I'm on fire, like quite literally on fire. No, I'm not on fire, not burning, but I'm electric. Like my brain is sparking, all neurons are firing. I'm clean, I'm healthy, I'm doing what I've got to be doing, and I'm on one. I can get from A to B in 10 minutes. I tell myself I've done this journey a million times before, and when I get there, I'm going to do this action, and this action is going to set me to where I want to be tomorrow. And funny, along comes a slow truck, just pulls out in front of me and delays me from 10 minutes to 20 minutes. And I need to be sanguine. I tell myself, it's okay, we've been here before. It's the matrix, and it's trying to slow you down, but you have been here before. Okay, so I not avoid the truck, but I'm sanguine, right? I get there and I'm like, cool, I'm still focused, I'm still good, I'm resilient. I'm still here to do the action that I said I'm gonna do. And lo and behold, something else happens, and then something else happens. Now, some will say it's your spirit guides and they're guiding you and it's not for you yet and this and that. But then others, like just what you just said, Frank, is that, nah, there's something bigger at play here. And I think it's the robots. I say good morning to them and they don't say nothing back. I'm like, oh God. Oh, yeah. But okay, what, so, Rob, sorry, yeah, go on, Callum.
I love talking about this, right? And I love the theories. But do you know what frustrates me the most? Is the not knowing. Like there's no definitive proof that life is what it is, what we see right in front of our eyes, or if it's all a lie and there's something else playing out behind the scenes. It's the not knowing that really frustrates me. I wish there was some sort of definitive evidence that could set me on the right path and go, yes, you've been right the whole time. There is a bigger picture. And it's frustrating.
It is. And back to what Frank said and highlighting what you just said, Callum, I do believe that the system is in place to protect us. The need for necessity breeds the invention. If your reality and natural behavior is to be horny, for example, you wake up, you're solid, you're not got any rules, no restrictions, you're meant to, hear me out, you're meant to be doing exactly what you're doing. A man could potentially have 365 kids in a year if there was no real culture or no real restrictions and no rules. However, I don't know any man yet who is capable of achieving that goal. But we do have the ability. I know that sounds crazy, but we do. And if it's in your nature to do that, we need to have something in place to kind of stop that. Because if no one was to tell me to stop, let's say, for example, it's a really strong word, and I know that, back to the quote at the beginning, I'm sorry, but I have to go there. Rape is not cool. I wouldn't want it for my mum. I wouldn't want it for you. I wouldn't want it for anyone. I wouldn't want it for myself. No one wants to be raped. So if your natural energy, like a real unsociable, uneducated, just going off your natural urges, and the system isn't in place to stop you or educate you or teach you, we'd have a whole bunch of mad people out there.
Yeah,
so sometimes
I think it's like it's good and bad in so many ways, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do we need to be controlled? We might not, us lot in this group, but as a...
Well, I think as a mass, I mean, we're all different, aren't we? There's people that probably like ourselves that probably don't need to be, but then there's people like who you just described, who can't control their natural urges and who would be a danger to society. So that's why I suppose there is laws and prisons and things to kind of keep them at bay and away from.
I think as well, if we never had a system in place from whenever it kind of started, we wouldn't have this way of thinking now, because you wouldn't know any other way. It would all be lawless.
Absolutely.
Who here in this chat is religious? Who follows a religion?
If I had to have a label of one, I would probably say Buddhism.
Okay, that's fair. And I think to a degree, I think Shah and Callum are a bit of Buddhist. So I think I found that when trying to explore religions, I kind of came to a summary that these are just guidelines people adhere to keep them on the path that they believe is right for them, to make them the best version of them that they can possibly be. There are those who choose not to. I don't, I got to the point growing up where I couldn't actually make sense of Christianity. It just didn't speak to me anymore. However, a few yeyears ago, I met a guy called F.A., and I'm actually going to invite him to this chat, to Elite Thinking Club, because he is a preacher. He talks at church, and I went to watch him chat to these people who needed him to chat to him. He served them. And he said, Chris, have you ever read the Proverbs? Because Proverbs is a book in the Bible that has a lot of quotes. And the quotes make sense to the people that need to hear it. Like, one of them is like, beauty without intelligence is like a diamond ring on the nose of a pig.
Really good.
and when that's a proverb, right? So he said, I found that Proverbs serve me. And I was like, then I am not going to take that from you. You believe that religion and follow it if it speaks to you. So I only wanted to ask, because before the way we are thinking now, free and wanting to live our best lives, the best we know how, do you think maybe some people who aren't capable of grasping the grander scheme of things, that just need some guidance, but they don't want to hear it from mum, they don't want to hear it from dad, they don't want to hear it from me nor you, but the words of a book, it just makes more sense to them?
Yeah. I think
you can easily get escaped in books, can't you? You know, you can kind of escape reality very easy.
And I think when it comes to reading books, everyone's mind works differently. So you may read the same book as me, and I may visualize that book slightly different to you based on how your mind's processing, you know, the material that you're reading from that book. And I think probably similar with religion as well. You know, you can have certain events that have happened at set dates based on what religion they follow or what culture they follow. But everyone may perceive each religion differently. I mean, it's hard for me to say, like, I believe in something, but I don't follow any specific religion, just because, I don't know, for me growing up, I didn't grow up around it. So it never introduced to me when I was younger. It only sort of come into my life at later years, but I always found it hard to figure out, you know, how is there so many gods in all these different religions? Why is there not just one God? But then obviously everyone refers to God as, you know, Allah, Jesus, God, the Star of David. Like, Jewish people have different beliefs, Buddhism as well. I mean, everyone sort of has their own piece to go to, but what is the right one?
It all stems down to that not knowing again.
Yeah.
You don't want to choose one because none of us knows which one's right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If there was a handrail in life, like a stair handrail, to say you're on the right path, this is the way to go, would that take away your element of choice? Would it take away your element of discovery? Explore?
I think it might take away some of your elements of bad choices. But I think it would also probably take away a bit of discovery. Sometimes I think things are meant to be uncharted, but
I don't think I want to know I wouldn't want to know the handrail.
No.
I think it's quite exciting. I mean, only 31 years old, and already I feel like I've lived a lifetime. When the truth is, I've probably still got double the amount of time I've already done to go. I wonder how many people stay devoted to their faith for a lifetime.
It's not the years in your life, it's the life in your years.
100% is. Especially last year. That felt like I'm going to write that down. What was it?
Yeah,
there was
you were
there was a couple.
I need to get a medal because you wrote down last week.
Oh, what, you think you're bad? I'm not writing it now, Liz. No, you can't have that. You can't start thinking. You can't start thinking you're bad. But it was good. It was good.
You said 31, and you feel like you've lived a lifetime. So it
was a good one.
It just reminded me of that. It's not the life. Yeah, it's not the years in your life. It's the life in your years.
I am going to write that, Liz. That was very nice.
Yeah, that is a good one. But then when you was talking about last year, Jules, like you probably would have heard people say time flies, when you're having fun. Last year, definitely weren't fun for a lot of people, but in all honesty, I think it just went very quickly.
Same here. It did go quick.
Abiding by, what the rules that were put in place and stuff. And I feel like it has just gone by so quickly last year.
Mm-hmm. It did go quickly, didn't it? do you find that, did you find that you were given your time back? Back to Callum's input earlier about how we're born into this system, then all of a sudden the system got frozen, everything, and you was allowed to be. You could do you. Did that make sense? Anyone?
Yeah, it does.
It was almost like
We had time to stop and think and breathe and not be in the rat race of it all.
It's a bit of a, like for myself, I've worked, I've had to work throughout the whole thing. So for the last year, I've just carried on working 5 days a week as I did before the pandemic started. And nothing really changed. Only the materialistic things, or how I see it, was taken away from me. So, you know, restaurants were closing, bars were closing, entertainment stuff, all of that stuff got reserved and put on the back foot. But the work process, I still carried on going to work and still living that side of life. So I suppose the entertainment was taken back, but then that's when you sort of have to start using, you know, your imagination and initiative to keep yourself busy, keep your mind ticking over, and not sitting at home thinking, oh, I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
What I'm gonna do, because you know, mentally it probably did affect a lot of people. But I suppose it helped for me going to work, being proactive and just keeping busy, because I wouldn't know what to do if I had 3 months off, 6 months off, just sitting at home. I mean,
for real.
yeah, I don't know what everyone else had to do and stuff.
Same. I've worked throughout. The main thing for me is just, you know, like the restrictions on being able to go out, entertainment, and, you know, I used to go out a lot, restaurants and things like that. So yeah, it's kind of just made me feel like how they used to live in the very olden days, when, you know, we're lucky because they didn't even have TVs back then, you know. And it also stripped back and made me realise how simple things are actually meant to be. We can go walking in the forest and we've got all these things. Well, where I live in the countryside, you know, you've got all of these elements around you and all these things that you can do, which you probably in your everyday life forget to do because you've got all these other distractions going on, you know.
It's true. It's so true. Back to Charlotte's input earlier about driving. When given the time to not drive, you can walk to somewhere. Do you find that you notice a lot more things? Rarely do I go for a walk these days. Sometimes I like to just sit and think, but when I do go for a walk, try and just take a different road randomly, just to see where it leads. And sometimes you find a shop that you didn't even know was there. I've been living here 5 years, didn't even know that shop was there. It's because I've always drove past it. And I think like the same like concept when it comes to like when lockdown happened and like the last year's pandemic. Well, it's the same pandemic as this year, but I mean last year's initial response was get out and walk. You know, like a metaphor. Get out and walk. You're now allowed to. You're now allowed to discover a new way of life. A lot of people are trying to scream for the old way to get back. I think, are we programmed to complain, to moan, to actually see a downside when in actual fact there wasn't any downside? Did we deep down really and truly want what we got?
I think it probably opened a lot of people's eyes to appreciate what they actually have. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people probably relied on entertainment, going out, you know, buying stuff like shopping, therapy, or going to see like their friends in the pub, or, you know, just meeting up and stuff. I think once all of that was taken away, it probably made people appreciate what they do have a lot more, because, you know, a lot of people maybe got laid off of work. So financially they may have struggled, like mentally with their families and friends, like not seeing people. And I think like it probably did like make a lot of people appreciate what they have, rather than probably, it was frustrating for everyone, but I think it probably made a lot more people appreciate what they have, I would say. Because I mean, me personally, I have quite a wide interest of things like hobbies and stuff, so like fitness being like a main one for me.
Yeah.
I felt like that was a good escape. I could go for a run, just have a looking around, like running, like, doing a bit of road running and keeping fit at the same time gives you time to think, but also physically and mentally you're benefiting from it as well.
I totally agree, Frank. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
One second. I'm just going to turn that on. Yeah, so I totally agree with you on that. The fitness side of life is vital. It's important, really important. Going back to like I go off on tangents, right? It's like you sparked something in my mind to talk about that's the system and natural being. I think there's a definite innate need in our DNA to move. We're on a timeline, like we've evolved for thousands of years, and only in a short space of time in that timeline, like 200 years, we've become very like, I need to say this word right, sedentary. Damn, sitting still. Do you know what I mean? We're very static. We'll go from sitting to sitting, sitting to sitting, whereas there's a deep desire, need to be active. And I think we're constantly fighting that, constantly needing to do that. It's a harsh truth that we're evolving the complete opposite way of what we were naturally. I see the youth nowadays, like I actually am at an age now where I've understood that every generation has its pros and has its cons, and like a huge part of being, I'd say, a teen now going into young adulthood is that you are part of the world, like the internet. You do have to, I don't know, somehow make sense of the two versions of you, the online you and the physical you. I think we're the luckiest generation.
Oh, 100%. We grew up before it, during it, and after it. Well, yeah.
Yeah. So we can actually have a broader view on it. We get it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas they were born with it. Like we picked up the pen. Remember, like in school when you could upgrade for a handwriting pen, you'd start off with like the big red one that's like a triangle, and like you didn't want that no more. You wanted the fountain pen. You know what I mean? So you could get the cartridges and just like get a Parker, like it was the in thing. That was my years, and yeah, you learned that, and then you learned the internet when it came through. Microsoft, like Word, the very first Word, like Windows 95. And you thought you were bad because you could put a poster together with word art and that, and we went through that, and then that process was great. To be born now with a touch screen, it's almost like pens are redundant. Handwriting skill, they won't have it. Even communication skills, it's quite scary. There's a guy called Simon Sinek. He does a lot of talks about millennials. He's really passionate about trying to help them in the workplace. He tries to teach leaders how to manage millennials because it's not the same mindset that you're managing. It's not enough to communicate with them like you would, you and I. They actually need a little bit more nurturing through no fault of their own, because they get a more positive response from a screen than they do from a person. They've learnt to trust the screen.
It's so bad how it's affected social skills. And
They won't turn to a person for answers. They will turn to a screen.
Yeah.
And do you know what I find, because I work in an upper school, so they're like teenagers, and the struggle you get to talk with them anyway because they're teenagers. But because of social media, like I had a girl, I do safeguarding, who had to like disclose something to me, which was a massive thing anyway. But the only way she could do it was by typing it as a text on her phone, because it was the only way she knew how to communicate. And like now, with the situation we've been in from last year with the schools shutting, and again now, this whole generation, doesn't matter if they're as young as my youngest at 4 or 16 and plus, they're all going to struggle to be social beings forever now. Like, it doesn't even matter how long this goes on for. It psychologically is going to just change them, because they can only do things through the computer and through the screen, and it's their critical time to learn how to be social beings.
I think unfortunately, like with the younger generation now, so you know, the young children, as you both said, you've got children, because they're born into the e-way of living and technology. I think potentially it may only be worse unless the parents of those children are actually enforcing them to socialize physically, or you know, don't sit in your room playing on the Xbox or the PlayStation for 5-6 hours.
I agree, Frankie.
Why don't you go outside and, you know, kick a ball, or, you know, without social distancing, play tag. I remember when I was younger, playing runouts was a thing, or bulldog in you know, in the field or the street, and you know, that was a great game. A couple of teams, like one place is home, and then that's it. Whoever gets the most people.
Anybody ever play Kirby?
Yeah, Kirby. Yeah, Kirby.
I love Kirby. I love that.
Kirby was a great game. Yeah.
Play that.
Callum, didn't you play it a couple of years ago?
So true. So true,
Still
Frankie.
playing it.
I always promoted it with my two, the social and like play dates, and especially being outdoors as well, because you know, like you say, kids get stuck in their room or just stuck on the sofa. Again, Jules, we are moving beings. We're supposed to be moving about, you know, years and years ago. That book that you got me onto, Sapiens, you know, tribes. We're always walking about and merging and moving on and going from continent to continent. You know, that's in us. That is, you know, we are meant to be outdoors and in the elements. And yeah, it is very, very important. And I'm actually quite anti-electronics when it comes to my children personally, because of, you know, this sort of thing, and also what I've learned in psychology and the effects of like the likes of social media and screen time in general. And you know, I had a conversation with my daughter, my eldest, she's 10, and she came home from school one day and she said, "Oh Mum, I need a phone. And I said, what do you need a phone for? And she said, well, a few people in my class have a phone. And I said, okay. I said, what do they need a phone for? And she said, well, you know, because they've got one, I need one. I said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not the type of parent that is going to adhere to peer pressure. I said, because I don't think you need one. I'm your chauffeur, I'm your chef, I'm your, you know, communication with regards to your friends setting up play dates. I'm your taxi, you know, I'm everything. So you don't, when are you going to need to contact, when do you contact your friends now? She said, well, just when I see them at school. So why do you need a phone? You know, and I tried to and I just said, darling, you don't need a phone at this age. And I'm just dead against it, because I think once you expose them to that, that's it. They're into the whole screen time and the whole, you know, just changing their personality, that they think that this technological world is what life is. And I kind of am trying to keep hold for as long as I can that that isn't really your life.
I will never tell a parent how to parent, and there's two reasons for that. One, it's integrity. Like, I am not a parent yet myself, to my own kids anyway. The role is incredible, and I don't think parents get told enough that you're doing an amazing job. I think one of the hardest things as a parent is to not compare. You know, you'll feel like you're not doing enough or whatnot. 'Cause I only know this because for last year, talking about working, I worked in a residential care home for young people who are not with their families because of like the upbringings that just weren't good. And trying to communicate with them was hard, trying to influence them. Not so much the influence stuff, it was just realizing the basics of parenting. Are they fed? Are they washed? They're going to school, pick them up from school, you know, doing these roles. And then when they were coming home from school and they had a bad day and one of them was suffering with being bullied, and, you know, you're not there biological parent, but you feel, and you feel like, oh, how can I talk to them? How do I communicate with them? And can I have my phone? It's like, you're trying to put restrictions on it. Like you only get it during these times because you've got to do your homework and whatnot. And if there's one thing I learned from that, was that parents in general do not get enough praise. You have to give yourself praise. If your children are fed and they've got roofs over their head and they got clothes on their back and they got food on the table and they're going to school, and you should be ticking all the things you are doing, right? And you're doing it right, because the role is hard. I want to swear on my own, effing hard, but you need to be able to pat yourself on the back. You must, because like I said, last year I spent a lot of time with some kids who have been exposed to absolutely shocking parenting. I hate that they even, it burns me up. It really does. Some of the people out there who have offspring and they don't deserve it. They do not deserve that. Do you know what I mean? And it highlighted to me that there's a lot of people out there that are good parents. So you must understand, you are good parents. The system.
I think parenting hard. As well. There's no rule book. There's no textbook. It is it is hard. 100% it is hard. And all I want to do for my children is just to make sure, I predominantly that they're loved. They're looked after, and predominantly that I keep them safe, and I try for as long as I can to not expose them to certain things that are out there in this world. Which you can only do it for so long, I suppose. If my kids grow up and they want to go travelling across the world, something could happen to them. I'm not there. There's going to be moments when I'm not going to be able to necessarily shelter them or be there or look after them. But and like you say, you shouldn't compare. I've got friends that do allow their kids to have phones and things at certain ages, and that's fine. But I just personally, it makes me feel better if mine are, not at the ages that I've got at the moment. Don't get me wrong, they have little games that they can play and stuff. But like you say, Julian, when you were working with those children, you have to do your homework, then you can play that for a little while. You have certain things you have to put in place, and structure and boundaries, etc. So yeah.
Hats off to you parents, man. Seriously, hats off to you, especially during this pandemic and everything the obstacles that it brings. It's not easy at all. Not easy at all.
Kids have gone wild.
Naturally.
Absolutely wild. But like you said, it gives you the chance to go out and go for walks, and they love it. They love being outside, but then again, they love laying on the sofa all day as well. It's the best of both worlds.
Yes.
Balance.
Right, guys. I'm gonna have to close it there. That's the hour, and I just want to say thank you so much for showing up. It means a lot, And Callum, big breakthrough. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's on it. I can't believe it. But no, honestly, Frankie, Liz, Shah and Cal, I really appreciate you guys being on this call. Thank you for being part of the Elite Thinking Club, and you're always welcome every Thursday, 7:30, same time, same place. So as I always close, everyone, everywhere, peace and love.
Bye.
Brilliant. Bye.
See ya.